right, here we are. Thanks for joining us today, everybody, for the Bright Ideas Realty Thirsty Thursday Small Business Happy Hour. I'm Lisa Jemison. I'm our lead buyer's agent on our team. And today I'm really excited to have a fellow friend and neighbor and female business owner on our happy hour. I'm super excited to have Emma Browining from Paradox Consulting Group. Before we get started with her, sorry, I'm having a little bit of issue here. There we go. Before we get started with her, I wanted to just kind of ask a big question for everyone who's watching. We are looking for more awesome small businesses to have as part of our small business happy hour. And so I would love it if you could drop names of different people or organizations or small companies that I can talk to that you think would also kind of fit our mission-based, purpose-based small business or nonprofit organization. We just really love to have conversations with folks that are really looking to pour into their community and pour into their people and do really good work for good folks and make the world a better place. It's really what Bright Ideas is all about. We just happen to do it by helping families buy houses, but we like to think that we're part of a larger community of like-minded business owners that are really looking to pour into people. So if you have ideas or if you are one of those people, please reach out. You can put it in the comments or you can private message me, Lisa Jemison. I would love to know who you are and what you have to say. Okay, so let's switch gears and introduce Emma. I had the pleasure of meeting Emma, I would say, gosh, how many years ago was that? It was 3 years ago when we did that that Women in Technology conference that you were a part of when I used to be the director of company and university engagement for the Research Triangle Park. And I helped to put together this initiative where we talked about women in business and pathways for women after they've taken time off to raise a family, making sure that they have a way to get back into the corporate world and that the corporate world is sort of recognizing them where they are and what their needs are as working women and to not discredit them in any way, because if anything else, moms have even more to offer as far as management is concerned, that's for sure. So that's where I had the pleasure of meeting Emma, and I've been able to watch her business grow over the last few years. And we only found out that we were neighbors too, which is really fun. So Emma, why don't you tell us a little bit about Paradox Consulting?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So Paradox Consulting Partners is a management consulting company based in the Triangle. It was founded in 2016 after I was with a national consulting firm for close to 10 years. So I left there in 2016 and started Paradox. And our purpose as a company is to help the Triangle thrive by facilitating game-changing organization and people solutions. So what that really means is that often we're working with companies who are poised for growth and helping them get their organization and people aligned and operating effectively so that they can really capitalize on the growth that they're able to. So that often means too that we're doing a lot of organization change and systems change work with companies, which is really kind of the work that I like to dig into.
That's interesting. I tell people all the time that my work with helping people sell houses is to help them make good decisions. I mean, like it happens to be about houses, but it's really about helping people to make good decisions. And oftentimes when people come to us because they want to buy or sell a house, or both, sometimes it's both, they're often going through massive amounts of personal change, right? Like there's a marriage or a divorce or a new baby, or they're empty nesters, or they have a new job, or they're moving across the country for a new job, or it's any number of those things all at the same time. So I hadn't really thought about that until I was listening to you talk just now, that you meet people with organizational change, and we are very much in the weeds with families and individuals when they're going through a lot of personal growth change. So that's interesting. So one of the things that you and I have always connected about, a goal for Bright Ideas, is to become a B corporation. We will get there. That's maybe in the next 1 to 2 years, we can start working on that. But in the meantime, I know that's a passion of yours. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I'll give you a little kind of just personal background and history there too. So I am very much now, I would say, a business person and a business consultant, but I did not start there. So coming out of undergrad, I had a very liberal arts background and I started my career in the nonprofit sector. So, the nonprofit sector is really known for being mission driven. Their whole purpose for existing as organizations is to create some sort of social good. So that was really where I began my career. And during the course of that, I think I realized a few things were important: how important leadership is, how important community is. That was a big piece. And I also realized during that time just how much I enjoyed business. And so, after going to business school and being in the corporate sector for a number of years, when I started Paradox, I really tried to bring it all together. So really realizing that, even within businesses, there's opportunity to be very values driven, be very mission driven, be very community oriented as well. And I think a lot of companies are headed in that direction. So that was important to me when I started Paradox.
Yeah.
As a B Corp, and for people who don't know what a certified B Corp is, it's essentially a certification for socially responsible businesses. So think about like a fair trade certification for coffee. It's the same kind of idea, but for socially responsible businesses. It's really easy to say you're socially responsible, but what does that really mean? Unless there's some kind of consistent measure for it. And I will say too, I know being a business person and working with a lot of companies, I think there's a lot of very great kind of mission-driven companies out there that aren't necessarily B Corps as well. But what the B Corp movement does is really provides some real rigorous metrics around being socially responsible, and it's not easy. It's a process to go through, and it's also really focused on continuous improvement. So, I am a B Corp, but that does not mean that I have, I'm doing all the things that I could be doing as a business. And so the idea is to really continue to measure yourself against the metrics of their assessment year over year, so you're really improving. So it's pretty exciting. It's a great community to be a part of, and I think really does drive you as an individual and as a business to really continually improve what you're doing for the environment and the community and how you're operating.
What are the metrics? Like, can you give us some examples of the metrics? The ones that were easy for you and the ones that were maybe a little harder to meet?
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a great question for me. And I think that's really where I think the B Corp assessment and the B Corp movement's exciting, because I think most of us have an area that we tend to lean a little bit more towards when it comes to being socially responsible. For me, growing up in the nonprofit sector, being very kind of people oriented, community oriented, those pieces are easy for me. So or I wouldn't say easy, but that's kind of where I have more knowledge and gravitate towards. So kind of, giving back to the community, those types of metrics, as well as an organization, kind of the HR side, what are you doing for your employees that's being responsible? Those are the areas that are a little bit easier for me. On the environmental side, that's something that I just don't have as much expertise and experience. And Lisa, I know you have some more background in that yourself. But I don't have as much experience and expertise there. So for me, that was really important, because now, we're measuring our carbon, we're offsetting our carbon every quarter, which requires that you're measuring it, which requires that you're thinking about what you're actually doing as a business. And as a consultant, driving and flying and all that is important. So that's, for me, I think the environmental metrics are probably the ones that were the biggest growth for me and gave me a means to really think about, what impact we were having on the environment as a business and what we could do to improve that.
How long did it take you to become certified?
So I'm trying to remember the process. We probably about a year to become certified. We went through a program at NC State University where they have a clinic that if you apply for that and are accepted into that, you can have a team of students, usually from not just from NC State, but from other institutions as well, who really are you're almost kind of the consulting project for them. And they help you with the assessment. So if you were thinking about becoming a B Corp, I would really recommend looking into that program, because there's a lot to learn from that program as well.
Does that program still exist? I wonder if it does.
As I know, yeah. Yep.
That's hugely helpful for us.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. And I would say too that, the other companies that are certified B Corps, it's a really strong, supportive community. And so those other companies really want to help other companies become B Corps as well. So there's a lot of support out there.
Yeah, I've recognized that. I mean, again, like around the time that you and I first met, I got on that email. There's a local group, I guess, that's basically Durham. That's all the different types of corporations, and I was on that listserv through my work in Research Triangle Park, and yeah, it seems to be a really awesome network, and like very like-minded companies, and I look forward to being a part of that. Yeah. Well, cool. So who's an ideal client for you?
Yeah, this is the $1 million question, Lisa. It's not always an easy answer. So because we are Triangle based, most of our clients are in the Triangle, not all of them. So that would actually be one of the main ideal clients, that they actually either have either headquartered here or have a significant presence here. We work with international companies, so they're not necessarily all here. They're not always necessarily headquartered here either, but often have a significant presence in the Triangle. Mm-hmm. The size of the company ranges a lot. We used to work with kind of 300 employees to 10,000 employee companies. We've worked with some smaller ones as well. So that varies. And quite honestly, the industry varies as well. So in a lot of ways, I think it's more kind of going back to what I said earlier, that it's an organization or a company that's really poised for growth. So they're really, about to grow, or in the process of growing, and they need help, as they're growing, just really getting the organization and people kind of caught up with where they are and where they want to go. So yeah, it can vary quite a bit.
When you say growth, is it growth in headcount or growth in, adding another geographic location? Is it growth in programs? Is it all of those things?
Yeah, it could be all of those things. I mean, when I think of growth, I think I'm mostly thinking about really a revenue growth, but usually all those other pieces are associated with that to some degree. And also, based on our B Corp conversation as well, I think the impact matters too. So it can also be, maybe a nonprofit organization that's trying to really increase its impact. And that's really their measure of growth.
Wow. And so what's I know you probably can't talk about specific names of clients that you've had, but can you describe some situations where you've been able to help a company go through that growth? Like, just maybe give us like a high level example without, we could just call it company X.
Oh, you're back. Okay.
Did you lose me for a second?
Yeah, I think it might be me though. I apologize.
No, it's fine. So I was just asking, is there an example that you can give us where, you were able to help a company in such a way that you were either really excited about or really proud about? I mean, I know you can't use a company's name necessarily, but can you give us some examples of those types of, that you were able to make with a company?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that the organizations and companies that, with the work where we can make the most significant impact is where I mentioned kind of the organization kind of systems change. Mm-hmm. It's where we're kind of with them for a while, and we're not just, kind of chipping away at one part of the organization, but we're really working across the organization in lots of different ways. So I think some of the most successful projects are ones where, and honestly, thinking about clients I'm still working with, where, change isn't, you don't just change and then you're there. There's constant change. And so being able to work with clients where over the course of, a number of years, you're really working with them through changes and through growth, and you're really able to see kind of the big picture, and over time, getting them along that path to where they want to go. I think those are some of the most fun and the most exciting projects.
Yeah. And do you get involved with, laying the vision for that change, or are you also more so in the like boots on the ground, walking through it?
Yeah, I would say it's both. I think, when I think about organization change and systems change, I think there's two pieces that need to be there. I think there needs to be kind of the structure and the process change that needs to happen. So actual kind of adjustments to structures and processes within organizations. But then there also needs to be that mindset shift as well.
Yeah.
I was just having a conversation with somebody earlier today about how those both need to be there, but how you get to those two pieces can differ. I would say that Paradox's strength tends to be more on the structure and process side. And then when it comes to the mindset shift, either that kind of happens during the course of doing the structures and processes, or you really need to do that and bring in, somebody else who has more expertise in the organization development kind of mindset shift standpoint, and really change kind of the hearts and minds at the same time.
Yeah, that I would imagine can often be the hardest part.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, how do you find your clients, or how do they find you?
Gosh, it varies a lot. We are a lot of word of mouth, honestly. I could do much better marketing.
Or referrals, maybe more.
Yeah, I know that's good. So a lot of word of mouth. We could do much better marketing, but I mean, in the triangle, I think doesn't really directly answering your question, but one thing that I've loved about starting Paradox is that they're, as a consultant with a national firm, I used to be traveling around a lot, with a lot of great clients, but there was so many exciting things happening here in the triangle, and there are so many great companies in the triangle, and so much growth, and so many just interesting, amazing people who are doing amazing things. And I think what's so cool about having a regional company that's really focused in the area is that it enables me to meet all these, great people who are doing amazing things here in the community where I live.
Yeah.
And so, so the more I'm able to do that, it's just fun for me. And then also that's, where business comes from.
Yeah, I know. I just love this area, and I wonder sometimes, like, what my friends back home think about, I don't know, sometimes Chad and I probably come across as like zealots for the for the triangle and like neighborhoods that we work the most in. But you're right. I mean, it's just such a cool area. It's so awesome to be part of a region that's actively growing. We've definitely lived in places that, their heyday has passed, or maybe they're maintaining. But this place is actively growing, and there's just this, convergence of small businesses and big tech and, arts and culture, as well as, sciences and just education and new ideas coming in all the time from people moving here, or people who have lived here their whole life looking at things in a new way, or carrying kind of their legacy forward and putting it on like a bigger platform or a bigger stage in the triangle as we've grown. So it's so dynamic. It's so interesting. And there's always new things to learn here about like what people do for a living. And that's why I love to do this happy hour. This is kind of like what I used to do when I worked in Research Triangle Park, like it was my job to get to know our companies and kind of know what everyone's working on. And I am endlessly fascinated by people's passions and their stories and just what their business goals are. It's just
Yeah, that's great. I think that also made me think of another part of kind of the, the B Corps and the impact and kind of mission driven side of Paradox. Thinking about, it's great that the triangle's growing. There's so much growth and there's so much opportunity here. But when I kind of set our purpose as a company, right at the beginning of this conversation, it's about helping the triangle thrive. And we do that as business consultants. But when we think about the triangle thriving, again, it's a system, on a larger scale. But there's, having the triangle thrive means that, people have opportunity for growth, regardless of, their background and experience. And that opportunity to really participate in that growth is really extended to everybody. And I think that that's also, for us, our mission driven side of our business is, we're helping companies and employers and employees. But on the other side, there's all these other parts of kind of helping the triangle thrive, like the education system, for example, that all need to be working together to really have this cohesive region that's really, that really is extending opportunities to everybody. So that's kind of the bigger picture part of what we try to do too.
Absolutely. So what happens next for Paradox Consulting? What's on your wish list for next year, or your goals, or, if you could institute a change, what would it be?
Yeah, I know. And honestly, it's a tough question right now with kind of COVID and the current environment. So it's not an easy answer, to be honest. I mean, we were founded the end of 2016, so we're still a pretty young startup company in a lot of ways. So and we're growing, and so continuing on that growth trajectory. is certainly in the plans. We, I think that diversity and inclusion is a big topic, obviously, right now with Black Lives Matter and all the attention right now directed in that area, which I think is, super important, and, just wanting to continue that conversation. So we have a partnership with a diversity and inclusion strategy consultant. And so because, we're often working in organization change, that can't be ignored. That's super important. And so, so doing more work in that area, I think is one area. And again, we're focused more on kind of the structure and process side instead of the mindset side, but partnering with others who are better at kind of changing mindsets and hearts and minds and partnering together on that. You can't just change the hearts and minds without actually changing the structures and processes within companies as well around D&I. So that's a growth area, I think, for us as well. And beyond that, just continue to reach more companies and meet more people who are doing exciting, cool things in the Triangle, because it's inspiring.
Yeah, I would imagine there's probably a tremendous amount of work. I mean, again, I don't know on this particular happy hour I'm bringing up my old job as much as I'm bringing up the work that I currently do, but I guess it's just because that's how I met you, was talking about diversity and inclusion and how to make, workplaces more accessible. And that has been a trend, at least at big companies, for several years now. There has been a push and a lot of internal movement to be more diverse with how they hire talent and where they look for talent and how they screen talent and interview talent and all of that. And that's, I think very much backed by, I don't know, I guess I would say two things. One is the bottom line, because the science, the data shows that when you have a more diverse staff and when you have women in CEO positions and you have more diversity at the table, you're going to make more money. So some of that is bottom line focused, but the other part of it is that in attracting talent, you want to get, part of retaining really smart people oftentimes is that they come along with values, when you want to make sure that they feel included and that people who they want to be included are included at the table, so some of it is kind of just in an effort to make it a great place to work and make sure that the brightest minds come work for your company. And yet I think what's happening in the world right now is more about social unrest. It gets to more of the mindset piece that you're talking about versus the structure and operations, right?
Yeah, it does. I think what's interesting though is, and this could be a whole other, hours-long conversation, but when you're thinking about, how does systems change happen in organizations, but when you're thinking about it kind of, larger in the world, that, when there's policy change, it's a combination of kind of that shift in kind of mindset and public sentiment, and then along with kind of the policies and the structures and processes. So I think it's to see how that's happening on the macro level, and then how that's translating into businesses in companies, both how that's encouraging them to make more changes, and then also how the businesses are really part of driving that as well. Is that something that I think we're seeing too, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah, it is really interesting to think about it from that perspective. I bet you're going to have a front row seat.
I mean, I think we all will, but I think that's great.
From the corporate side, I think you'll definitely have a front row seat just to see how that plays out in jobs and job creation and job hiring and product development and who's developing the products. I mean, it's really interesting work.
Yeah, I'll say just one more thing. I know we're getting probably close to our time, but from kind of the small business perspective, because you mentioned, a lot of the larger companies, I think it's interesting in thinking about smaller businesses and how they're approaching diversity and inclusion, because some of the larger companies, who have a huge HR staff and a lot of processes where they can make sure that they're removing bias more from the hiring process, and that they have more programs in place for inclusion. And I think some of the smaller companies, it can sometimes be a little bit tougher because they don't necessarily have all those the structures and processes in place, and all those technology tools in place to be able to use. And so needing to be cognizant about kind of in a smaller company environment, how you can be really intentional as well.
Absolutely. I mean, that's why I say Bright Ideas is a year or two out from planning, being on that process to be B Corp certified. It's just because, we're doing everything we can to sell houses and to hire staff and establish all of our systems and operations and make our experience for our clients as flawless as possible. We don't have bodies right now that we can put on a project like that, but it's not because we don't
Right.
want,
Yeah.
it's a matter of bandwidth and time in the day. But I mean, again, like I keep talking about my job in RTP, probably the biggest reason why I left was the opportunity, to run a business with my husband, because we've always talked about it, but because I wanted to create a business that stood for something and meant
Yeah.
something. And that
Yeah.
B Corp opportunity, and a giving back opportunity was just so big that, I ran out of there and headlong into Bright Ideas, and I haven't ever looked back, So there's so much opportunity there. But yeah, just like you said, for small businesses, it can be hard because you're just kind of making ends meet and just making it awesome for your clients so they keep coming back. You don't necessarily have that HR department to do the work yet.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, there's an opportunity there.
That is our growth opportunity. Well, Emma, it's been so fun talking with you. Is there anything else that you want to share with us before you head out?
Gosh, the only thing I will share is that, I mentioned how I love in this work, just meeting exciting people doing important things. And Lisa, you are right up there on that list. So thanks for inviting me. And this was really fun.
I appreciate that. Well, thank you for the work that you're doing. And for everyone else that's listening, again, we're looking for more small businesses that are doing big, important things. I love that phrase that Emma just used, big, important work in our community, whether that's West Cary or whether that's looking at, our city in a larger sense in the Triangle Metro area. We really want to know who those companies are so we can bring them on and hear their story. And help to tell their story and connect them with people who want to do business with them. So if you have ideas, please let me know. And thank you again, Emma. What's your website in case anyone wants to learn more about your
is www.paradoxcpforconsultingpartners.com.
Awesome. Thanks, Emma. I really appreciate it. Say hi to your family. Have a great rest of your day.
So thanks, you too. Bye, Lisa.